Now, let's everybody not spend too much time visualizing me getting a bloody nose, so we don't use the power of the law of attraction to bust my face. You know what's great is that Pyrides is the producer here in the studio, and it wasn't until I was talking with her right beforehand about, oh, I don't know what I'm going to say today, and then she asked me some questions about the TED Talk, and hey Jimmy! Hey, do you mind being live on Hug Nation?
Oh, alright.
So I normally wouldn't answer the phone, but it was an accident.
So what you're saying is I'm a featured guest.
You were a featured guest, and also a further illustration of non-attachment, because you're not on the agenda, but you are in my heart.
Well, I'm honored to be included, but I'll let you get back to it. I don't want to interrupt.
I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, happy Hug Nation.
Happy Hug Nation. Surrender! Surrender! Alright, so what I was saying was that unexpectedly, as I was sharing my thoughts and the things that have been going on this week, it suddenly started to become a topic. And it's... I don't know how many times I'm going to have the universe show me this lesson before I stop second-guessing the universe. You know, I tried to think my way to a good topic. I even said, hey, who can suggest one? And there's some great ones, actually. So I'd like to actually touch on a few of the things that people have expressed. I asked some people for some suggestions. Some of these are like incredible topics that, you know, I actually need to do like research on, like Nassim Harameyn's unified theory of the universe stuff. Like, that's a great topic. I am not qualified to speak on it, but as I learn more about it, it could be the starting point for some other conversations. Let's see. A few people mentioned money, and Goose and Catherine Gom and Goose Tomleznovich both wanted to ask about money, and that's actually something that is an awesome topic, because it is part of our life. There may be people that are self-sustaining and live on farms and communes. If they are, they're probably not listening to this, because I don't know how you function in an internet world while being self-sustaining. So it's part of our world. It's a part of our culture. And so there's a few things that my mind went through to come to peace in some ways about money. A big one was, well, let me take it back a few years. So after I was doing my first website and then a few more websites, and then I at one point was running a webcam community called Citizen X, and I also moved into a webcam house. We were trying to make money. We weren't making any money, but I was basically living for low rent in exchange for sharing my entire life online, including showers, and my sex life was all, you know, broadcast live on the net. The 99% of that broadcast was boring, so you had to be, it's almost like being an archaeologist, like digging, shower scene! Actually, it's very little like an archaeologist, but I imagine both would have patience involved. Don't listen to me. Okay, so I was living in a webcam house, and Citizen X eventually, the investors didn't want to give any more money. It ran out of money. We were trying to keep it going. And eventually it had to close. And as I look back on that chapter, I was so anti-money. I so had these such negative feelings about the evils of commerce, that it just was this corrupting power, and I just had so much negative feelings about money. And also, I don't think I felt like I deserved to be paid for things that I enjoyed. Money is this bad thing that you get when you do things that you don't want to do. And so here I was trying to do something good that I loved, and a huge part of my brain just, I don't think, even had a space for how could you ask for money for that. So I did ask, but got very little, because I wasn't in alignment. My vibration did not match an abundant vibration. And so eventually I went to go work for a company at that point I'm like, I'm moving out of a webcam house. I'm cleaning up my act. No more of this, sexuality stuff. I'm going on the straight and narrow. And then the only job I could get was with a porn company. And so I said, Universe, I'm not sure, is this a test, or are you telling me which okay. Now, it was a marketing position, and but even so, it was a great experience. And I went to work, the guy that I worked for was younger than me, genius, and wealthy, and he had this perspective on capitalism that changed my life. And it's something that I talk about here all the time, the idea about voting with your dollar. And he said that the capitalism, it is a beautiful system. It is a way that we can communicate with this massive economy and tell it what we want more of. There is no, lords of economics that say, all right, we need another Walmart here. We need more Britney Spears knockoffs. Yes, we will make those. The system just goes, oh wow, this thing is being lucrative and making a lot of money. Competitors go, oh, let's make more of those. Or the people doing it go, let's open another one. Or people say, let's copy that. And so, if nobody is spending a little extra for, free-range chicken, then a farmer goes, this is stupid. I'm not going to spend extra to do that. But if people will spend extra, the farmer goes, sweet, I'm dedicating more of my farm for free-range, or whatever that is. And so it is this beautiful system of communication. So that's a two-part thing. The first part is voting with your dollar, and then also starting to believe that I deserve resources for what I bring to the world. And part of that process for me was paying for those things. So if I think, oh yeah, I want to make money as a public speaker, but I don't go and pay for public speakers, I'm not supporting anyone who's doing that, then there's a vibrational disconnect. If I'm downloading all my music and not paying for it, and wondering why I can't seem to get a break and no one is buying my album, it's like, well, it's just, you define the world around you. So those two things. And so I started to get into a state of thinking about my money, not as this evil thing that I'm a slave to, but as a communication tool. If I am spending money on something that I don't want, I need to really think about why I'm doing that. Even something like, okay, electrical bill. Duh, I love electricity. My rent. Duh, I love where I live. Now, you can say, I wish it sucks that just to be alive in America, you have to spend money to just live here. I can't, that sucks. And it might, but that's a separate conversation. The reality is, as you are spending this money, think good thoughts about it. Think of it as a gift, not a gift, take that back. Think of it as a vote and saying, I like this. Let's keep this going. As you're buying food, if you are buying processed stuff, you're saying, hey, universe, we want more processed food. More Jack in the Box. As you shovel it down here. But if you're paying a little bit extra for a brand that takes a few extra steps to, free trade or whatever that is. Actually, this morning I bought coffee, and I bought 2 bags. One was a cheap one because I just needed backup coffee. And the other one I'm like, okay, I'll spend $3 extra for the free trade, even though I'm not even sure what that means. But I know it's good. And I know that, it's a vote with my dollar. I'm telling someone, you made extra effort. It cost you more to do this, and I vote for that. The truth is, even our politics are all voting with our dollars too. But even as in your own relationship with money, thinking about it as that way. And if you don't think people would vote for your dollar with their dollar for what you do, that's something that needs to be reevaluated as well. I guess the third part, which is one that I never had a huge problem with, because I had pretty good training with budgeting, and I actually thanked my parents for this recently, that I've never gotten deeply into debt. And when I was a kid, I remember, being at Toys R Us and saying, so wanting the Death Star playset, which was I think it was $50, which when I was a kid in the early 20s was $1 million. Okay, I don't know exactly. It was a lot, though. It was a huge amount of money. But a huge amount of money to a kid. I knew my parents could afford it. My dad was a lawyer. And so, and he was so adamant about, if this is something you want, well then save up your allowance. And they were so strict on that, which anchored this thought, this realization that you have to choose, You can't just say yes to everything. Something has to give. You have to work within budgets. And the truth is, maybe that's not good advice. Maybe you should think so deeply into abundance mentality that you think, oh yeah, I'm going to spend with the belief that the universe will fit that need. And if that works for you, that's awesome. I recognize that I'm not, I don't live in a mansion, but all my needs are met. And I've been in that place for 10 years, I guess, where I don't live flamboyantly, I don't take huge trips, I don't, but I do take care of what I need. I don't worry about money. But I spend as much as I can in places that I feel good about, and then have faith and trust that things will show up. And that has been, my experience has been that one way or another, my needs get met. The other, I guess the final part of this whole equation for me in my relationship to money is letting go of the fear of what would happen if I ran out of money. And maybe letting go is the wrong word, because I still slip into that place. And it's funny, they've done these kind of surveys and stuff, and the number of people who are afraid of being a homeless person is 80%. No matter how much money people have, people are always afraid that they're going to be, you're going to lose it all and be homeless. And that is a terrifying thought if you attach a story to that. The truth is that millions and millions of people all around the world live at a level of poverty way below the homeless level in this country. And that would be if everything went wrong and no one was willing to help you. And so as I think about it, what would happen if I was living underneath a bridge? Truthfully, what would happen? I mean, when I'm honest with myself, the only thing that I'm really afraid of is violence against me when I'm living in a street community that doesn't have the protection of the police, because that is a real risk. But I think that the real risk in that is when you're not a stable person and tend to get drunk but that's a real risk. Other than that, being poor is not the worst thing that can happen to you. So just letting go of that fear takes away that attraction, that mentality of you never want to be, running away from something. You always want to be running towards something. And believing that your needs will be met, not having the fear that pulls you into that direction, trusting that the universe will take care of you, knowing that as you spend money, it's not leaving you, it's voting, it's empowering you. And also knowing that the more tightly you hold on to what you have, the less able you are to receive. If you are grabbing hold of the dollar bills you have as money opportunities come to you, you have no way to get them. My friend Dimitri is one of the most generous people I know, and he's taught me a lot about just like, you almost have to go talk to the waitress before the meal's done and give him a credit card if you want to pay for a meal when he's around, because he just always wants, if he has resources, he just wants to share, he just wants to take care of things, wants to be generous. And I told him, how inspiring it was, and he actually noticed me, like, he goes, it's been interesting to watch me get more generous and less concerned about money as I've spent time with him. And he said, well, and he's this person who spends like crazy for other people and does receive nice resources in his life. Is he a rich man? Absolutely not, because this is how he lives. He just doesn't hold on to anything, just and to him he goes, well, that's why we're here, right? You get resources to use resources. And if I get to a point where I no longer have resources coming in, that's how I'll know that it's time to stop sharing so much, because I simply won't have it to share. Like, whew. I'm much more of a, keep some safety money in the bank account, keep adding to that, and hopefully we can all find our place where we feel at peace in that relationship. So hopefully that was somewhat helpful. I feel like I'm on that path currently. I'm now I have no income right now. As AnyBeat shut down, and as I'm exploring some other options, because of my hoarding stuff that still is a part of me, I do have some money in the bank, and I'm okay for a certain period of time. But that feeling, that fear stuff does, as I spend money and none is coming in, I go, I hear my dad's voice, I hear cultural stuff, and I have to go, what have I learned over the last 10 years? And I keep having these profound lessons along the way too. Like a few years ago when the Hugmobile broke down, and it was going to be $5,000 to fix it, I asked for help, and within the week we had enough money to fix the Hugmobile. And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to, that's not a business plan of like, yay, people will just PayPal me money if I need it. Or maybe it is. But the point was that, like, look, here are these, I'm not a solo, or at least if I act in a way that is has that relationship with money, that spends when I can, that isn't attached, doesn't have fear, then the things work out. Even if it means not having the lifestyle that I think I need, or that I know I want. I'm kind of belaboring this, but there's another big part of this that I realize. And that is letting go of what you think happiness looks like. Because if you think happiness is a certain level of affluence, you won't recognize the happiness and the joy in whatever you have now. The fastest way to get rich is to appreciate what you have. And the curse of poverty is to wish you have more. Maybe not wish, but feel like you don't have enough. So that the amount in our bank account, the stuff that we have, that is all relative. What matters is, do I feel abundant? Do I feel blessed? Have I recalibrated my baseline so that I can go, wow, I have my own computer. I have fresh vegetables in my fridge. I have hot water that comes out of my bathroom. I mean, that is, go back a few hundred years and you are royalty. So when you let your picture of what happiness looks like, your picture of what comfort slip up to a certain point, there's this huge window of awesomeness that you just can't see. So that's my dump, my money thoughts dump of. And if you, as you're listening to this, go, you know what, man, this guy, these thoughts, these words, I want to vote for this. PayPal at stin.net is a way that you could send me a token saying, yeah, I want more of this in the world. Just giving you a chance. Trying to look a little bit in the chat room right now as I got into my capitalist rant. Oh, you know, one other thing that this is, it just kind of related to this, you know, as I was talking about how beautiful our system is and how beautiful capitalism is. I don't mean to say that our current system is a beautiful expression of communication, because what we have right now is corporatism, and that skews things. That is in the beautiful gears of the capitalist system. Corporatism is sand. It is a virus, and it skews the output, it skews the input, it skews the votes, and it introduces all sorts of distortions. That and that's why we have the you know, rich richer, poor poor, and the divide getting greater, is because there's a virus in the system that distorts things. And I wish that, you know, I knew the easy way to fix that. Since tomorrow is 4th of July and a celebration of our independence, I didn't want to get too deep into politics and stuff, but I consider myself a patriot. I think that I'm lucky to live in this country. I also recognize that that blindly saying we're the best is ridiculous. That we have a huge number of things that we need to work on, and that in the world stage we are nowhere near the best. The big ones to me, the big challenges to this country being what it could, is the war on drugs, our election system, election reform, ending the war on drugs, and I mean, election reform would do that's the big one, but and then the you know, corporate personhood or any sort of you can't really address that too deeply without addressing election reform. So I'll just say war on drugs and election reform, because those things skew them. And when you have a system right now that is so based on there's so much money needed to become a leader, that being reelected becomes a huge job, and it becomes something that requires a leader to make deals and to owe people, and so, you know, the when you got even the war on drugs, you know, the amount of money made in our prison system is insane. It's like the pharmaceutical company, that all these massive industries, there's just so much money to be made by those industries that they then influence politics, and politics influences laws, and the laws then influence the economics, and so it's self-sustaining, and it gets, you know, it just divides and gets worse and worse. And so until we fix our you know, our political system, and not that the system itself is beautiful and poetic. We've got that sand in the gears. We've got that virus, and I think so much of it comes down to election reform. I think I'm trying to remember what the name of the site. Fixcongress.org, I think, is a great site if you need more or curious more about a group that's doing smart, good work in that direction. All right. I think that's the right URL. Let's click on it and see if it brings me to... Oh, it's got a new site. So now it's called rootstrikers.org. Yeah, but that's it. It's Lawrence Lessig's organization, who is... You know, you start to find individuals that act in integrity over a long period of time, and you just like, I just start to trust them. Lawrence Lessig is one of them. Noam Chomsky is another one, but he's so angry, you know, like he just goes in these massive rants about music videos, and it's like, well, I think Lawrence Lessig is a little bit more digestible, and whereas, yeah, that's an endorsement. Consumers fund the companies, but also companies influence policy, and that's when it gets scary. You know, it's because we don't have that. It's not just that our system is that commerce that I was speaking of, that beautiful communication. We want more of this. We're also being, well, there's part of it is that a huge corporation has the funds to convince us of almost anything. But it also, when it affects policy, for example, like I just saw a post recently about the farming situation in our world, in our country, and we've got these massive farms get subsidies, and a politician in the current state cannot fight that, or else they would then. I mean, it's just too integrated and complicated, and it's not like we as a culture. We're not demanding larger farms. We're not saying, and we want larger farms to get subsidies to grow corn. I mean, there's this skewed system that it's not based on what's best for the people, or even but capitalism ideally could be that if you didn't have that same influence of policy. Okay, hey guys, let's just take a break from politics and acknowledge that it's complicated. That's one of my challenges with politics is that all of us are very susceptible to what the stories that we hear and that we believe. And in fact, tons of research has shown that we look for and believe the information that reaffirms what we already believe. And politics is one of those areas where it's very rare that people go into any issue with a state of like, I am an open book. What is logic here? We all think we do. I'm included. I mean, I found myself last night, I made some disparaging comment about Romney, and I realized, holy shit, I learned that from like a tweet, like 140 characters, and I then internalized that, I believed it, and I made a judgment, and now I'm using that to judge a Romney supporter. There was a Romney sticker, at a neighbor's car, and I went, what? Oh yeah, let's vote for the guy that, makes his money taking jobs offshore. I'm like, I am part of the problem. That's the fighting that stops dialogue, that stops solutions, and actually ends. So let's, as a chat room, kumbaya a little bit. All right. So let me get into another topic that I was going to address, or someone asked about. Although Darren asked for the topic of contrast is the greatest teacher. So maybe we should fight. Nah, let's not fight. One thing that I saw this week that I made my head just start going. I was listening to a Radiolab show. It was about color. Radiolab is an incredible podcast. Highly recommend it. There's so much food for thought. And the color show, one of the things that they looked at was the way we perceive color versus the way other things perceive color. And I just, for example, we have 3 types of cones, right? We can see red, yellow, and blue, and those 3 receptors give us the rainbow that we see. You know, as you mix those colors, you see different degrees of all of that. And so that's why a TV only needs to have 3 colored lights to make everything. That's why printing only needs 3 colors. You know, that's the way our perception is. But birds and butterflies have 4 types of cones. They see ultraviolet, which not only extends the rainbow, but it also means that there is depth and intricacy between each color because you have that mix. The same way that, you know, going from 2 to 3 multiplies the options a ton. So does going 3 to 4, because you can mix ultraviolet, you know, with other things, and suddenly there's this richness. And here's where it gets crazy. The mantis shrimp has 10 types of cones. It has by far more than any other animal that they've ever discovered. The mantis shrimp, it's about this big, it gets up to a foot, very colorful, and can see color almost infinitely more complex than we can. What? And get this, the mantis shrimp also is one of the strongest. It's this little thing, and it gives this punch to like break shells and things. It goes 50 miles an hour on this little thing through water. It can break an aquarium glass. So here we have this incredibly perceptive, bizarre-looking, super strength creature in the ocean. I'm not saying we should bow down to our new crustacean overlords, but what I am saying is that it gives this kind of, wait a minute, how attached can we be to the way that we see the world? We get so attached to, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, even that is incredibly limited in terms of the entire spectrum. If a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to see it, is it still green? It would have light vibration at a certain frequency. But if an alien saw it, would they see it green? Very doubtful. And I like that whole perspective because it just, I like things that shake us out of the confidence we have in our own thoughts. You know, so much of our plans and so much of our decisions come from that that ego consciousness, when there's so much of else of what we have and we are that is deeper and more. You know, we don't need to understand how to, you know, fight, how to control our white blood cells to fight off invaders. It just happens, you know. And anything that helps remind us that there's this world that our senses can't perceive, I think helps us to get more humble and surrender more. And if there are any mantis shrimp watching, I am looking for work. Okay. Let's see, where are we at? We got 5 minutes. Here's 2 that maybe even overlap. One, Serena. Wait, yeah, Serena's. I'm sorry. Sarah said, "Want to know about dealing with values and lifestyles that didn't match your own." And I guess Ziola asked about non-attachment, which is, we talked about it a little bit, but it's also related. And then another question was about, Diamond was asking about how to deal with getting someone's attention, praises, and love from someone you're in a relationship with and being at a different pace with them. And I think that, you know, there's all of those. I mean, it's one of the grand parts of life. You know, it is not that hard to be a monk and live in a monastery away from the world. Not that I've tried it, but without things to conflict, it's much easier to stay at peace. In fact, sometimes I question my own path. The fact that I'm not married with kids means that I've eliminated this huge source of frustration and conflict, also of joy and support. But it's life is this contrast. That's another thing that was mentioned. That was Darren's thing. Is that about contrast is the greatest teacher. It makes sense that so many of these questions are about a similar overlapping thing, which is, how do I be me, enjoy life when everyone else or certain people around me are at odds with me or different? And why can't they be? Why do we have this conflict, these challenges? And the answer is because you're a human being and you have consciousness. And there are some animals that don't have the luxury of independent thought, and so they go with the hive mind, or they live on instinct, and so they don't have to deal with free will, and they don't have to deal with free will that's different from their own. We have that gift and that massive burden and that massive opportunity, because it is in those conflicts, is in that desire for things to be different, that we learn about ourselves. If you are totally at peace and with who you are and what you are, then you totally accept everyone else with who they are and what they are and where they are. I'm saying that because I've read it, not because I experienced that. But like Jesus, as he was being crucified, said, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." And if he was pissed at them, it would be because there was a part of him that felt some of those same feelings and then had that anger, that defensiveness. When we have defensiveness, it's because we believe a little bit of what the other person says. If someone starts yelling at me and says, "Hey, fatty," it's like, whew, that doesn't... I feel at peace with the size of my body. That does not... I would say, "Oh, I'm not sure where that's coming from. I'm sorry that that's bothering you. Do you want me to put a shirt on?" Actually, I'm my kid, and I would never offer to put my shirt on. But if they said something like, "You're a fraud. What right do you have to talk about happiness?" I would be like, well, because I have not totally resolved all of that. I'm not totally at peace with my own insecurities and my own stuff. And so as somebody either acts that way or challenges me that way, it is, once again, it's like it's putting my homework in my face going, "You ready to let go of this? You ready to do the work? You ready to forgive yourself? You ready to forgive others? You ready to get back to peace? No? Okay, well then keep defending yourself. Keep being upset. Keep wishing someone else was different." And if you want, you can move away from that person, and then you can have those same feelings towards someone else. I reckon that's probably not that helpful of advice. And so what I have been trying to practice is one, reminding myself that everyone... Well, one is looking at myself in my life and knowing that I have been at different places in many times, in my past. I can look at myself as a kid, and I can picture myself killing insects, in like torturous type ways. And I can picture myself being cruel on the playground to other kids. And I can picture myself throughout life, doing things, being somebody that now, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm not that person, but it is what I was at the time. And what good would it be to judge that person? What good would it be to judge somebody outside of myself who is similarly in a place that is not massively evolved? And just as I hope that I don't look at myself now in 10 years and be horribly judgmental towards that, I'll understand that I was doing the best I could at the time. So as I have people that are close to me that may be doing things that I don't think are right, I try to recognize that they're perfect. And that if I don't like where they are, there's a good chance it's because I have a script. I have a definition of what a business partner should be, of what a lover should be. And if this other person is not following the script, I feel like, I shouldn't have to deal with this, or whatever the things that trigger me are. When the reality is, this is not your script. Everybody is being them perfectly. And when you practice loving someone, and I don't mean just romantically, loving strangers, enemies, what the practice is saying, you are perfect. You yelling things at me, you are playing your role perfectly. I don't like the script, it makes me uncomfortable, but this is an opportunity for me to then figure out where that tension is coming from in myself. Why is this stirring me up? I don't need to make you different, I need to figure out why, and then practice letting it go. The other thing that I've been practicing doing is trying to be aware of my physical reactions to things. So if I'm in a conversation and a topic comes up or an accusation comes out, you're a fraud, instead of saying, well, what about when you do this and I do, instead if I feel, I'm like, whoa, trying to say it in a way of saying, this is really stirring me up. And then trying to say, I'm feeling this is making me feel this. And maybe even saying, can we put this on hold and come back to this when I'm not so riled up? Because my desire right now is to attack. My desire is to hurt you because I'm feeling, and I want to say things that are going to make you cry. But if I can practice going, okay, I'm in a lesson right now, aren't I? Okay, this has everything to do with me. Okay, you're being just you're supposed to be. Okay, I can't do it right now. Can you let me have some space? Or maybe even saying, I gotta go. And that's something I've gotten better at over the years. My first few relationships, when I got to that place, I did not recognize it as something like that. Instead, I thought the only way to stop it was to do something dramatic. And so I punched holes through walls, I've broken things, I've smashed things, I've almost hurt myself in bad ways because I got triggered and was then in this place and I just reacted because that was the only way I knew how to stop things, change things. And so over a decade, of trying to oh, here it is. And sometimes it's making, the challenge is that the other person, if they're triggered, their reaction may not be like, oh yeah, cool, this is an opportunity, because they're triggered too. And walking away from a conversation could trigger them even more. So it's trying to be aware of all these things and in a deep place, knowing that the tensions is what gives you growth. And I've been going through those a lot recently, and it's not always pleasant, but it does increase the capacity of my heart, and it does increase the capacity for compassion, even if there are moments of it that open up the vulnerability to a place of self-judgment and self-doubt. And but again, that's what a human being is here to do. We're not here to win, we're here to learn. And those people that teach us by flaring us up, those are the angels in our life. Thank you for getting me so raging pissed off. Good luck! And don't worry, if you don't pass the class, you'll keep getting it. All right, it is past 2 o'clock. Thanks for spending an hour in this random rambling. Although some of it seemed on track, on point. So thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for adding your energy and to this recalibration. It's I don't know how this. It is. I don't have the words to express how powerful a recalibration and a recentering this experience is for me. And so if you get even a fraction of that reminder of our potential and our capacity as people and as the vibration of love that we have at all times when we kind of dedicate a little bit of energy to surrendering to it, then man, we're doing all right. So thank you for being a part of this for me. Thank you for being you. Hope that vibration spreads into your world. And I hope you recognize that you're perfect, exactly on the path where you're supposed to be. Thank you. I love you. Namaste.